Committee held an historic hearing to address the tragedy that occurred in Buffalo, New York, just a few days ago. It is still fresh in our minds, despite the fact there have been more mass shootings since. But the situation in Buffalo was a clear example of a deranged individual who was inspired by some white supremacist theory to attack innocent people at the Tops grocery store. And as a consequence, when it was all over, there were great human tragedies. We invited the families of many of those victims to come forward today to tell their story as we consider what we can do, what we must do in the United States Senate and in the Congress to make a safer nation and to make it clear that those who perished in Buffalo did not die in vain. We had with us Mr. Garnell Whitfield, whose mother was killed, sadly, at the Tops grocery store. And there are others who were in the audience who will have a chance to say a few words this morning. But I want to turn it over now to our majority leader, the Democratic leader in the United States Senate from the state of New York, Senator Schumer, who knows the families and knows the circumstances better than most. He has given his word that we are going to respond, and we're working on it now. I know over the break we've been working on it for quite a few days. It's a massive political challenge, but we must meet it. That is our responsibility to make America safer. Senator Schumer.
Thank you, Senator Durbin, and let me thank you as chair of the Judiciary Committee, Senator Blumenthal, and all the other members of the Judiciary Committee who were here. But most particularly, I want to thank the families. Can you imagine how hard it is being here, having lost a loved one, having lost a whole community, having been on a peaceful morning, everything looked fine, and then you hear what happened. And these folks will live with this the rest of their lives. Not just today, not just next week, not just next year. The whole community on the east side of Buffalo will live with this for the rest of the community's existence. But I want to thank them. I want to thank Mr. Whitfield, who made such great testimony. I want to thank Ms. Salter, Ms. Pritchett and Ms. Spite, who you'll hear from in a little bit, and everyone else who has joined. I want to thank my good friend Ben Crump. We've worked on many crusades together. We've won every one of them. We're going to win this one, too.
Amen.
We're going to win this one, too. I just want to salute the families who are here. What the scriptures tell us is the natural thing when some horrible evil, unmistakable violence falls upon you or a loved one and you lose them. The human instinct is to what the Bible calls curse the darkness. You turn inward on yourself, you become angry, you give up. What the Bible also says, what the scriptures say, is when you try to prevent it from happening to others, you're lighting a candle. It's saint-like. And you folks are saint-like. It is not easy to do this, to relive what happens, although you relive it all the time. So we have some really saint-like folks with us here to try and make sure this doesn't happen again. We all know that racism is the deep, dark poison of America. And unfortunately, it exhibits itself in too many ways. But what we saw on the east side of Buffalo, that a bigoted, despicable animal came to shoot people because they were black on a peaceful morning at a supermarket is just, it shakes you to your inner bones. And we have to deal with this in America. We cannot push it under the rug. We cannot ignore it. We cannot go just walk away from it. We have to keep pushing and pushing and pushing. And so when Senator Durbin passed the legislation, the Domestic Terrorism Prevention Act, I said, we're going to get this to the floor of the Senate. And it still befuddles me how so many people could vote against it, how so many people could vote against it. It's just confounding, disturbing that we did not get a single Republican, and all we asked them to do is vote to allow us to debate the issue. Because we all know that when racism is left to fester it grows. Plain and simple. And we don't really want thoughts and prayers. We need votes. We need action.
Amen.
We need action to stop this despicable bigotry. We are going to vote on gun legislation in the future, and we are going to bring this act up again and again and again in every way we can to make sure that America knows that there are enough people who want to see righteousness done. So I would just say we have a moral obligation to do what we're doing here and to continue what we're going to do. And I pledge to the people here, the good people of Buffalo, the people of the East Side, the city of good neighbors, that those deaths, as horrible as they were, as searing as they are in our hearts, you are making sure they will not have died in vain, and we will join you in that effort until we succeed. Thank you, and God bless you. I have to go to the floor. I apologize to my colleague, Senator Blumenthal. We're voting on legislation that I have to be there for.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, Senator Schumer. I'd like to ask Ms. Salter to please come up and say a few words.
Good morning, good afternoon. I am here today on behalf of my family, the Salter family. I am here on behalf of my husband, Aaron Salter, who died in the line of duty. My husband cared for the people at TOPS. He cared for everybody. And he showed that in giving his life for everybody. I am asking the Senate for their support, not only for me and my family, but for all the families who are affected by mass shooters. Amen. I stand here today to give honor to God for enabling me to be able to be here to talk about it. I honor my husband for not only the sacrifice that he gave, but for the love he also gave his family on a day-by-day basis. He made the ultimate sacrifice for everybody and for me, and I'm making the sacrifice for him. And I'm asking for legislation regarding the guns. I'm asking for legislation to empower our police officers to have armor, bulletproof vests, and all the tactical gear they need to protect my family, your kids, your mothers, your grandmothers, your next door neighbors, everybody, and even us. When we go out to the store, when we go out to church, when we go out to water our lawns, anytime, we need that same safety. We need that same security. And I am asking, pleading, that the Senate do all that they can, that Congress do all that they can. It's not about Republicans. It's not about Democrats. It's about people. It's about human life. It's about our existence. It's about our democracy. Amen. And for that, I give of myself on behalf of everybody else. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Salter. Michelle Spite. Michelle.
Good afternoon, and to all of the constituents. I represent a sad but unique reality that I lost 2 family members in that shooting. So my Aunt Pearl Young was one on my mother's maternal side, and my cousin Margus Morrison was on my mother's paternal side. This is riveting, to say the least. It is something that I would not want my worst enemy to experience. It has fueled my life in a way that I never thought would be. I am pleading, again, echoing the sentiments of Ms. Salters, I am pleading with the constituency of Senate, with the constituency of Congress, to look beyond racial divides, to look beyond political divides, and to see the reality that there is a human need, and that need is one in what should be our democracy, and that is equal and fair rights for everyone. It is no longer acceptable for certain classes and certain factions in our society to be protected while others go unprotected. Just as there is an anti-hate Asian bill, just as there's other anti-hate bills for the LGBTQ community, we are demanding and expecting that an anti-black hate bill be passed. Not later, but now. I am asking and pleading, senators, that you all go beyond, as she said, whether you're a Democrat or a Republican. I need you to know that we are all human beings. And if I cut you, you're going to bleed the same red blood. If you cry, you're going to cry those same clear tears. So moving beyond all of our complexities of our beliefs, whatever they might be, we need to make sure that our democracy is protected. And we need to make sure that this never happens, not in the United States, not in the world. Thank you.
Pamela Pritchett.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, senators. I'm going to say this. Every tear I cry is going to be a fuel for action. Yes. Every tear I cry is a fuel for action. And I say that, and I want to say to the senators, I want them to imagine getting a phone call that from the funeral director that you need to bring a hat to the funeral home because of the damage that was done by this man with the gun that he used. I want you to imagine going to see your mother or your father or your child, and when you go in and you touch their hair, it's not soft like it used to be. I know how my mom's hair used to be because I used to braid it for her, but the blood that seeped out brittled my mother's hair, and I touched hair that wasn't the same anymore. I hope that the senators will have the compassion, maybe will even close their eyes to imagine it for themselves. And I don't want them to imagine it for a loved one because that's too much for anybody to handle. But I want them to imagine it because I came here to tell my mom's story. My mom did not deserve the death that she had. But greater than that, I promise you that every tear I cry will be a fuel for action.
Dominic Douglas.
You did. Thank you. Margus Morrison was my cousin as well. Michelle is my family as well. I moved to Orlando to go to law school, and I celebrated my daughter's 9th birthday on May 13th. On May 14th, I told her that her family was gunned down, and I don't think you guys understand how hard it is to teach a 9-year-old little black girl why people are getting killed for their skin color. It is very hard to teach my little 9-year-old girl that there is hate in some people, but not everyone. that most people are good. But there are bad people, and I don't know why we're arguing about it. I don't know why we're arguing about ways to stop those bad people. We are not here attacking anyone. There is no hate in our hearts. We never walked into a grocery store hating anyone and bringing an AR-15 to kill them because we just couldn't stand the sight of them. That's not us. And yet I'm asking you guys, who I know it's not you either, the people that are elected and the ones who are electing them, it's not in us. And I refuse to believe everyone's narrative that this is some battle between blacks and whites or between anyone. Because it's not. We're not fighting. We're not fighting anyone. We are asking for help. We are asking for support. This is not just a black thing. Our nation is so mixed up and so diverse. I promise you, if you're just as dark as a brown paper bag, he would have still shot you, regardless if you were black or not. That is how ignorant that person, that thug is. We are asking for support. That's it. Say, yes, this was wrong. And go and tell your legislators and the people you voted for, you know what? This is wrong. And what is a simple bill that we can pass to say the hate crime against blacks is the same hate against everyone else? It's the hate against Jews. It's the hate against the Taiwanese church that was attacked in California. It's the hate against LGBTQ+. It is hate. And unfortunately, some humans have hate in them, but it's not all of us. So the ones who don't, can you just support us? Can you just give us your love, because we're really in need of it?
Anita Eberhardt.
I'm Zanetta Eberhardt. I am the mother of Zaire Goodman. He was an employee of the top shooting. So Zaire was injured in the shooting. He was doing his job that day. He was helping, I believe, Miss Whitfield with a cart in front of the store when he was shot by the shooter. Zaire was shot through the right side of his neck, and the bullet came out of the back. But the bullet didn't actually come out. It shattered inside of him. So Zaire is left with shrapnel inside of him, probably for the rest of his life. His wounds are healing, but the shrapnel is starting to protrude into his back, and I can feel it when I clean it. And so, yes, we are pleading with Senate, with our elected leaders. We are pleading with you to raise the age on buying guns. We are pleading with you to fix the education system in this country, because if we're not teaching true African American history in this country, we are doing a disservice to everybody. I just want people to know that the east side of Buffalo is my home. It is where I was born, where I was raised, where I still live, and where I do the majority of my professional work at. It is love there, no matter what people say. And that is Zaire's neighborhood, and that's Zaire's community. He walks to the Tops on Jefferson. We live blocks from the Tops on Jefferson. He rides his bike to the Tops on Jefferson. That is our neighborhood. That is our community. Yes, we are black. We're not going anywhere. We're going to stay black, right? Amen. Like, that's just what it is. Racism has always been a part of this country, but we're not going anywhere. So we're going to have to figure out how to live together.
Before we have our last speaker, Garnell Whitfield, his brother Raymond is here, and he was in the audience today. I want to give him an opportunity to say a word. Raymond.
Thank you. Thank you. My name is Raymond Whitfield. I'm the younger brother of Garnell and the youngest son of Ruth E. Whitfield. You've heard much about my mother, very eloquently stated by my brother, so I won't go into much about that, except to say, as much as my heart breaks for my mother, my confidant, my everything, I want to say that after joining these families, my heart breaks for them just as much as it does for my mother, because we looked at each other and we said, you know what, after we told our stories about our mothers and our husbands and sons, our families, we just said, you know, these people were the salt of the earth. Yes. They were easy, soft targets. Many of them couldn't even run if they tried. He walked into that grocery store and he shot them down like animals. And I just think it's a poor strategy if you're trying to eliminate us as black people in America to pick the most caring, loving, and forgiving of us and shoot them down on a grocery store floor. That's all I want to say. I'll turn it over to the rest of you guys.
Garnell Whitfield was our witness here at the hearing and did a remarkable job bringing to our minds the image of his mother and what she meant to him. Garnell?
Thank you. Thank you. Just want to say it's truly a blessing to be here with the other families. We've gone through the last few weeks in our own silos in some cases, and have not spent a lot of time together. But it's been a blessing to be here with them to share our stories, our grief, and our support for one another. We're very thankful for that opportunity. Very thankful for the opportunity to be here today. I mean, you've heard the stories about my mom. You've heard all of us talking about our loved ones. And we thank the Senate for allowing us to be here.
Thank you, Senator.
We sincerely do. But we're not naive enough to think that they can do this alone. This is a clarion call for all of us as human beings, as Americans, to stand up and speak truth to power. To put our own comfortability at risk for something greater, to risk, our security for each other. That's what we're supposed to do, and that's what we're asking America to do. You guys behind the cameras, you guys have a lot of power. Amen. You guys have a lot of influence. You're here covering us, but there's a lot of other people who don't support what we're trying to do here. We need to hold them accountable. Amen. You can help us with that. We expect that you would do that as good Americans. So we're not here asking for handouts. We're not here asking for favors. We're just asking to level the playing field. Treat us like human beings. That's all. We don't need handouts. You hear a lot of banter about different things. It was hard to sit through some of this hearing. I mean, it was hard to sit silently, and you see none of them here today. None of them here. I mean, they said what they said and they ran out. But go chase them. Go find them. Make them answer some tough questions. I mean, you guys are asking us about what you think our solutions, how to fix this thing. That's their job. If they're not going to do their job, then they shouldn't have the job. So we're just asking for your support, for your prayers, and, we're going to stay strong. Amen. We're going to stay strong. Thank you.
We'll take a question or two if there are any.
Senator, obviously the bill that you put forward failed, but you see the families here behind you, you hear their passionate pleas for help. Where do you go from here and what's next? How do you go back to the drawing board?
Well, let me tell you, there are two things. First, Senator Schumer made it clear we are not giving up on this domestic terrorism reporting. The reason why this bill was introduced was the decision by President Donald Trump to eliminate the category of white supremacy in domestic terrorism crimes to be reported by the FBI to the Congress. It is a major challenge in America. We see today with these survivors and loving members of the family the price that's being paid by African American families across the United States. And that is an intolerable situation. We are going to return for this. It has been noted accurately that Senator Blumenthal and I and others consistently vote for legislation that ends hate against so many different groups. Well, we know what the hate was in the heart of that man who walked into that grocery store. It was racial hate. And we want to have that reported, just as we would ask that all other crimes be reported in detail so we can understand the threat to America and put an end to it.
That's very important.
This bill is ready to go again. There's no reason to put in another bill.
Buffalo 10.
Absolutely.
Any other questions? If not,
Senator Blumenthal, I was wondering how discussions were ongoing for new gun laws. And Senator Schumer seemed optimistic, more optimistic this week coming back from recess than before. So do you share that optimism? You all are getting closer?
You know, I think that these families and survivors have really provided some powerful impetus. I think this testimony brings it home. There's nothing more graphic than the faces and voices, as we've seen from the time of Sandy Hook. I'm more hopeful than ever. We've never had 5 Republicans sit down seriously on gun violence prevention, and they are here because of the courage and strength of these families and others who have stepped forward to be the face and voice of advocacy. You know, that shooter in Buffalo chose the aisle of that supermarket not because he wanted to buy bread or milk, but because of the numbers of people he could shoot more quickly with an assault weapon. Firearms are inextricably linked to domestic terrorism and violent extremism, including white supremacy. Firearms make white supremacy deadly. They make hate lethal. And that's why this kind of eloquence and power, I think, will help galvanize and crystallize our continuing efforts and working dusk to dawn, particularly on a red flag law that would separate people like the Buffalo shooter from a firearm when he is giving signs he's going to kill people, whether it's because of white supremacy or derangement or some other reason. But there'll be other elements that we're hoping to land, and I just cannot thank enough Mr. Whitfield and all of the folks who are here today.
Senator, obviously the red flag laws in New York, though, there are red flag laws in New York already, and the red flag laws didn't necessarily work in this case. So how do you close these loopholes?
Red flag laws need to be enforced. The evidence in New York suggests that investment of more resources and more effective implementation would have made a big difference. And that's why in the red flag law that Senator Graham and I have been advocating for some years, we provide resources so that the states will make them effective. The best law in the world without effective enforcement is dead letter. And when you compare Florida with 9,000 uses of the red flag law to New York with hundreds, there's a difference there in implementation that is a challenge to us to provide resources and also avoid any loopholes.
we're going to stop. We're going to stop the questioning now, but if you want to speak to us individually, you're welcome to. Thanks, everybody, for being here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you.